The stairs leading to the university auditorium were packed with students carrying bags, books, and some maps. Megan adjusted the two books against her chest and climbed carefully through the crowd. West League University. She had spent months imagining this moment. New classes, new people, and new experiences. Maybe even the kind of love stories she filled her notebooks with. Someone rushed past her, and their shoulder clipped her arm. Sorry. Megan lost her balance. The book slipped from her hands and bounced down 2 steps with a loud thud. A few students glanced over before continuing on. Heat rushed to her face.
Great.
First day, and she was already embarrassing herself. She bent to pick up the books. A shadow stretched across the steps. For one hopeful second, she thought someone might help. Instead, she looked up and found a girl sitting alone on a nearby bench. Dark hair. Sharp features. A phone in one hand. The girl glanced at the fallen books, and their eyes met briefly. Then she looked back down at her screen and continued scrolling. Megan stared for a second. Seriously? She gathered her books and stood. The girl hadn't moved. A breeze carried the smell of freshly cut grass from the campus lawn.
Somewhere nearby, students laughed.
The girl remained completely detached from all of it. Megan shook her head. Nice to meet you too, she muttered under her breath. The girl didn't react. A moment later, someone called for orientation attendees to head inside. Megan turned and followed the crowd toward the auditorium. By the time she reached the doors, she found herself glancing back. The girl was still on the bench, scrolling. Still looking like she would rather be anywhere else. But from the way she's carrying herself, she doesn't look like a first-year student. Orientation dragged on for most of the afternoon. By the time Megan finally found her assigned dorm building, her shoulders ached from carrying her bag. The hallways smelled faintly of fresh paint. Voices drifted from behind closed doors as students settled into their new dorms. She stopped outside room 372. This was it. She took a breath and pushed the door open. A spacious sitting room greeted her. A gray couch sat against one wall. 3 bedroom doors branched off from the common area. And sitting on that couch was the girl from the stairs. Megan froze. The girl looked up from her phone. No recognition crossed her face. For a second, neither of them spoke. A second girl sat nearby, legs tucked beneath her on an armchair. Unlike the first girl, she immediately smiled. You must be Megan. Yeah. Megan stepped inside. Please tell me I'm not in the wrong room. Nope. The smiling girl stood and offered her hand. I'm Chloe. Megan shook it. Then Chloe gestured toward the other girl. And that's Vivian. Vivian gave a small nod before returning her attention to her screen. Megan stared. Of all the dorms on campus. We met earlier today, Megan said, gesturing at the girl on the sofa. Vivian's eyes flickered up briefly. Still nothing. Either she genuinely didn't remember the stairs incident or she simply didn't care enough to. She set her bags beside one of the bedroom doors. So, we're roommates? Dorm mates, Chloe corrected. Separate bedrooms. Shared living space. That sounds manageable. It is. Vivian finally closed her phone and stood. She was taller than Megan had realized earlier. There are 2 rules, she said. Her voice was calm and direct. No parties in the dorm. Megan blinked. Okay. And don't enter my room. The words landed with the finality of a locked door. Chloe rubbed her forehead. Vivian.
What?
Vivian asked. You make it sound like she's moving into a prison. Those are pretty simple rules, and it's good to have boundaries. Megan folded her arms. Good to know. Vivian held her gaze for a moment, assessing her. Then she turned toward one of the bedroom doors. If we're done, I have work. The door closed behind her and silence settled over the room. Megan looked at Chloe.
Whoa.
She's super strict. Chloe laughed. Believe it or not, that's one of her better introductions. Megan glanced toward Vivian's closed door. The mystery girl from the stairs had somehow become her dorm mate. And judging from the rules, Vivian clearly wasn't interested in making new friends. Which, unfortunately, only made Megan more curious. Megan couldn't understand why university would make students from different years of study share a dorm. The next morning, Megan woke up to the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the unfamiliar ceiling reminded her. University dorm. New life. She grabbed a towel and stepped into the sitting room. Vivian was already awake. Dressed in a black blazer, laptop bag resting beside her chair, she sat at the dining table typing on her laptop while a mug of coffee cooled beside her. The rapid clicking of keys filled the room. Megan checked the time. 7 a.m. Her first class wasn't until 8. Good morning. Vivian glanced up briefly.
Morning.
Megan nearly stopped walking. That was the friendliest thing Vivian had said to her so far. Then Vivian returned her work. Never mind. After getting ready, Megan headed across campus. The morning air felt cool against her skin. Students crossed the pathways carrying books and coffee cups. Somewhere nearby, sprinklers sprayed water across the grass. She spotted Eva outside the literature building. You look tired, Eva said. I am tired. Are you nervous? Asked Eva. Not really. I was nervous about making friends, but who knew I would meet you on orientation also lost. I wasn't lost. Eva laughed and pushed open the classroom door. The lecture hall was so big, but was almost filled. Megan settled into a seat by the window and pulled out a notebook. Unlike high school, nobody was forcing her to be here. She had chosen this, and that thought made her smile. The professor walked in carrying a stack of novels. By the end of the lecture, Megan was leaning forward in her seat. The discussion moved from storytelling structure to character motivations and voices. She filled pages with notes. Ideas for her own novel slipped between lecture notes. For 90 minutes, she forgot everything else. Almost everything. Because every now and then, her mind wandered back to a girl sitting behind a laptop at 7 in the morning. Which was ridiculous. She barely knew Vivian. Yet every time she pictured the dorm, she pictured Vivian too. When class ended, students flooded into the hallway. That was actually good, Megan said. Told you literature professors are dramatic in the best way possible. They headed toward the main courtyard. The campus had grown busier since morning. Conversations overlapped from every direction. Then Eva suddenly nudged Megan, and she followed her gaze. Vivian and Chloe were walking toward them. Chloe smiled first. How was class? It was actually good, Megan said. That's great. Megan's eyes shifted to Vivian. Hey, Vivian. Vivian gave a short nod. Hey. Just enough acknowledgement to be polite. Before Megan could think of anything else to say, Vivian checked the time on her phone. We should go. Chloe looked mildly annoyed. We literally just got here. We have a meeting in 20 minutes.
Chloe sighed.
To Megan, she said, see you later. Then Chloe allowed herself to be pulled away. Megan watched them disappear into the crowd. You know, Eva said, I think your roommate might actually be an ice goddess from the sea. Megan laughed. Still, She found herself looking after Vivian a moment longer. Vivian didn't slow down until they reached the engineering building. The noise from the courtyard faded behind them. Beside her, Chloe folded her arms. You know, it wouldn't hurt to be a little bit nice. Vivian didn't look up from her phone. There we go. There we go what? The daily lecture. Chloe rolled her eyes. You barely spoke to her. I spoke. One word doesn't count as a conversation. Vivian slid her phone into her pocket. I don't understand people's obsession with niceness. It's called being human. I'm perfectly human. Some may disagree. That earned the smallest reaction. Not quite a smile, but close enough that Chloe noticed. I know you don't like having a first year in the dorm, Chloe continued. But Megan seems nice. Vivian pushed open the building door. I never said she wasn't. Then what's the problem? For a moment, Vivian didn't answer. Students streamed around them. Someone called Chloe's name from farther down the hallway. Vivian adjusted the strap of her laptop bag. There isn't a problem. Then she walked ahead. Chloe watched her go. The frustrating thing about Vivian wasn't that she hid what she felt. It was that sometimes she genuinely seemed not to know. Meanwhile, Megan and Eva headed toward the student center. The smell of fries drifted from the cafeteria. You know, Eva said, I'm sure your roommate isn't familiar with the concept of happiness. She couldn't stay even for a small conversation. Maybe she was busy. You're defending her already? I am not. Megan grabbed a bottle of water from a vending machine. Eva studied her. A smile slowly spread across her face. Oh no. What? You find her interesting. Megan nearly dropped her water. I do not. Megan. Megan unscrewed the bottle. I barely know her. That wasn't a denial. She pointed the bottle at Eva. You're hard to deal with, you know. Eva grinned. I know. They continued walking. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Megan glanced toward the path Vivian and Chloe had disappeared down. Only for a second. Unfortunately, Eva noticed. And judging by the look on her face, she wasn't going to let this go anytime soon. The next few days settled into a routine. Classes, assignments, reading. More reading. Megan was leaving the literature building late Thursday afternoon when Eva caught up with her. The afternoon sun warmed the walkways as they crossed campus, chatting about nothing in particular. A few yards ahead, Chloe and Vivian emerged from another building. Eva immediately noticed. Megan. Don't. I haven't said anything. You were about to. Eva laughed. The two groups met near a row of benches. Hey, Chloe said. Hey, Megan replied. Vivian stood beside Chloe with one hand in her pocket. Her attention appeared fixed on her phone. Appeared being the important word. Because Megan had started noticing something strange. Whenever she spoke, Vivian usually looked up. Only briefly. But she always looked up. How's university life treating you guys? Chloe asked. So far, pretty good. You survived the first week. That's impressive. Megan smiled. The conversation flowed easily between her and Chloe, and sometimes Eva. Vivian remained mostly silent. Until Megan mentioned her writing assignment. What are you writing? Chloe asked. A short story. What about? A girl who gets lost during a road trip. Vivian's gaze lifted from her phone. Why doesn't she use GPS? Megan blinked. Chloe groaned. Viv. What? That's your contribution? It's a reasonable question. It's a story. Stories should still make sense. said Vivian, and Megan laughed before she could stop herself. To her surprise, Vivian looked mildly offended. I wasn't joking. I know. Then why are you laughing? Because that's exactly the question I'd expect you to ask. For a second, they held each other's gaze. Then Chloe's phone rang. She checked the screen. We have to go. Vivian nodded. As they turned away, Megan heard Chloe mutter something.
See?
You can talk to people. I was discussing plot holes. If you say so. The two disappeared into the crowd. Eva waited until they were gone. Then she looked at Megan. Someone is smiling. Megan folded her arms. I'm just happy. Let's talk about something else. Did you know Vivian owns a tech company? What? Eva looked pleased with herself.
See?
Got your attention. Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
I thought she was just another student. She's rich. How rich? Own company before graduation rich. Megan stared. That explained a few things. The expensive laptop. The over-the-top confidence. The constant work. She's also kind of famous around campus. Why? Because she's Vivian. That's definitely not an answer. Eva shrugged. It's hard to explain. People know her. They reached a shaded path lined with trees. Leaves rustled overhead. Then Eva's expression changed slightly. Although. What? There's one thing people talk about. Megan already knew she wasn't going to like the answer. Her relationships. What about them? Eva adjusted her bag. From what I've heard, she dates. People date, said Megan. Just not for very long, said Eva as Megan's smile faded a little. How long? A month, maybe less. The answer sat heavily in her chest.
She wasn't sure why.
After all, Vivian wasn't her girlfriend. Wasn't even her friend. Still, the information lingered. People didn't usually leave relationships that quickly unless something was wrong. Or unless they never intended to stay from the beginning. You okay? Eva asked.
Yeah.
But her answer came a little too fast. Eva noticed. And for the first time, she looked genuinely concerned. That evening, Megan stopped by a convenience store on her way back to the dorm. The smell of baked bread drifted from a warmer near the counter. She grabbed a few snacks, paid, then left. The dorm was quiet when she stepped inside. Vivian sat alone on the couch with her laptop balanced on her knees. The glow from the screen reflected in her glasses. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. Megan set the snacks on the coffee table. Hi. Hi. I brought snacks, said Megan. Congratulations. Megan dropped onto the couch beside her. Not too close. Not far either. Vivian's eyes remained fixed on the screen. What are you doing? Work. School work or work? Work. Megan leaned slightly, trying to peek at the screen. Vivian immediately tilted the laptop away. Megan. What? Privacy. Okay. Vivian shook her head and continued typing. The silence stretched for a moment. Most people filled silence automatically. Vivian seemed perfectly content to let it exist. So, Megan said, opening a packet of chips, I survived my first week. Congratulations again. You're really good at celebrating people's achievements. I try. Megan laughed. This time Vivian's mouth twitched slightly. So quickly Megan almost missed it. Her heart skipped a beat. She offered Vivian the packet. To her surprise, she took one. Can I ask you something? Megan said. You usually do. Do you ever stop working?
No.
You are always busy. You should rest more. Vivian just looked at her, then returned to her laptop. What about you? Megan blinked. What about me? You always seem to be writing. The question caught her off guard. She hadn't realized Vivian had noticed. I like writing. I figured. I'm working on a novel. Vivian finally closed her laptop halfway. A novel? What is it about? Megan smiled. A romance. Vivian immediately looked unimpressed. Of course it is. What does that mean? Nothing. Vivian. A faint sigh escaped her. I just don't understand romance novels. That's tragic. They set unrealistic expectations. Not all of them. Most of them. Megan folded her legs beneath her. Maybe people just like believing good things can happen. Vivian looked at her for a moment. Do you actually believe that? The question sounded genuine, not dismissive. Megan thought about it.
Yeah.
Vivian waited. I think people can find someone who chooses them and keeps choosing them. Megan shrugged. Maybe that's naive.
No.
Megan looked surprised.
No.
It's optimistic. That's a nicer way of saying naive. Vivian didn't argue, which felt suspiciously like agreement. Megan smiled anyway. For some reason, she liked knowing what Vivian thought. Even when she disagreed with her. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Eva saying that there's a party tonight and that she should go with her. Megan groaned.
What?
Vivian asked. Eva wants me to go to a party. Then don't go. Apparently, that's not an option. It is literally an option. It'll be good for me. Vivian looked unconvinced. You don't strike me as a party girl. I like meeting people. You like books. I can like both. The sound was so skeptical that Megan laughed. Do you want to come?
No.
You didn't even think about it. I did, for half a second. That's not thinking. It was enough. Megan stood. Well, wish me luck. She took a few steps toward her room before stopping. Vivian? Yes. I'll tell you all about it. Vivian opened her laptop again. I look forward to pretending that I care. Megan grinned and disappeared down the hallway. A few seconds later, Vivian realized something. The dorm felt quieter. And for reasons she couldn't quite explain, she didn't like that very much. The party was held in a club a few streets from campus. Megan regretted coming almost immediately. Music pounded through the building hard enough to vibrate the floor beneath her shoes. The air smelled of alcohol, perfume, and sweat. Colored lights flashed across packed crowds. People shouted conversations that nobody could hear. Beside her, Eva looked completely at home. Relax, Eva shouted over the music. I am relaxed. You look terrified. Because I am. Eva laughed and disappeared into the crowd before Megan could protest. Megan found an empty spot near the wall and stayed there. She tried talking to a few people. Most conversations lasted less than a minute before someone wandered away. After half an hour, she was done. Completely done. She missed the dorm. She missed silence. She even missed Vivian making fun of her. The realization caught her off guard. A group of students stumbled past her, nearly knocking a drink from someone's hand. Megan checked her phone. No signal. An hour later, she finally found Eva. Unfortunately, Eva was asleep on a couch in a quiet corner near the back. Back at the dorm, Chloe sat cross-legged on the couch flipping through a magazine. Vivian was working. Or at least pretending to. The same line of code had been sitting on her screen for 5 minutes. You know, Chloe said casually, I haven't seen Megan all evening. Vivian continued staring at her laptop. I think she went to some freshman party, she said. Chloe turned a page. Isn't that party happening at Grey Club? The typing stopped, and the room went quiet. Then, Grey Club.
Yeah.
Vivian leaned back slowly. She knew Grey Club
Too well.
Nothing catastrophic happened there most nights. The problem was the nights when something did. Chloe watched her carefully. Still don't care? Vivian exhaled. I don't have my car with me. A smile tugged at Chloe's mouth. Aha. Can I borrow yours? You absolutely can. She tossed her keys. Vivian caught them without looking. Where are you going? Chloe asked.
Out.
Very specific. Vivian was already heading for the door. The club felt even worse 2 hours later. Megan sat beside a sleeping Eva and wondered how long friendship legally required her to stay. A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. Megan. She looked up. For a second, she thought she imagined it. Vivian stood in front of her. Black jacket. Calm expression. Slightly annoyed. The usual. What are you doing here? Getting you. Megan stared. Getting me? Yes. Why? Vivian looked around the crowded club. As fascinating as this place is, I'd rather not spend all night here. Something warm settled in Megan's chest. You're an angel. Don't be dramatic. Together they managed to wake Eva. 10 exhausting minutes later, they finally reached the parking lot. Cool night air replaced the heavy smell of alcohol. Megan had never been happier to leave anywhere. The drive back to campus was quiet. Streetlights passed overhead in steady intervals. Eva fell asleep in the back seat before they reached the main road. Megan sat in the passenger seat. You know, Megan said, if you hadn't shown up, I might have ended up living there forever. Vivian shook her head. A faint smile threatened to appear. Thank you. The smile vanished. You're welcome. Megan looked out the window. Then back at Vivian. It's nice knowing you care about me. Vivian let out a short laugh. First you're dramatic. Then you are delusional. Megan grinned. It's not delusion if it's true. The car rolled through a red light that had just turned green. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Vivian said quietly, as your senior, I feel responsible for making sure you don't accidentally ruin your life. That's your excuse? It's the truth. Megan wasn't convinced. But she didn't argue. Instead, she looked out the window again. The corner of her mouth lifted. And although Vivian kept her eyes on the road, she noticed anyway.